Chuck Todd, of course. The question I must ask is, what kind of day did Bill de Blasio have yesterday?
You know, he would be better off if he were wearing the Olympic sweater. He'd be better off if he'd been wearing the Olympic sweater. Well, I'll tell you this. Apparently, he's not shoveling the snow in front of Al Roker's place.
No.
I think now he should be making a list. Okay, Al Roker, what's his address? Let's see here. All right, let me get those streets done.
Unless, of course, he was actually just shoveling it into Al Roker's backyard.
Yeah, that's the other thing he's got to fear, right?
I think he is. Caddy, actually, it was quite a bad day. Weather woes for commuters and for school bus drivers and parents and children all across the Northeast, well, all across the East Coast, but also a bad day for politicians. Why don't we go through the news?
Yeah, it was really the pits, let's face it, yesterday. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's decision to keep schools open during the nor'easter led to a chilly exchange with the Today Show's Al Roker. Just 45% of students made it in for class yesterday. Roker took city officials to task with a series of tweets, writing in part, "So now my daughter's public school is being let out early. Is it worth putting kids' safety at risk? And how about all the parents and caregivers who have to scramble to get their kids home? Is there no one there with any common sense? I knew this AM New York City Mayor's office and New York City schools would close schools." Talk about a bad prediction. Long range de Blasio forecast, one term. Ouch. Mayor de Blasio is defending his call to keep the schools open, saying New York City doesn't shut down where there is adversity. He also responded to Roker's criticism.
I respect Al Roker a lot. Watched him on TV for many, many years. It's a different thing to run a city than to give the weather on TV. So I am comfortable with our decision making, and we just got off the phone with the National Weather Service. And again, I respect all the meteorologists out there, but the one I respect the most is called the National Weather Service. And and they just affirmed to us on the call before we came out to you that this went faster and heavier than their projections last night.
Well, that response made Roker even more outraged. He tweeted, "How dare New York City Mayor's office and New York City schools throw National Weather Service under the school bus. Forecast was on time and on the money. Mr. Mayor, I could never run New York City, but I know when it's time to keep kids home from school." And Schools Chancellor Carmen Farina is also being criticized for this comment at that news conference.
We never made the calls on snow days till the morning of. And many, many people complained about that. If you had to leave your home to get to work, it was an imposition, it was all kinds of issues. So then we decided to try to do it the night before. Because this storm was so unpredictable, and what we heard last night is not necessarily what we saw this morning. And by the way, just coming down here, it has totally stopped snowing. It is absolutely a beautiful day out there right now.
Which, of course, made it onto the front pages of the papers this morning. Well, hours later, Farina cancelled a town hall meeting in Brooklyn because of, quote, inclement weather. Joe, is it a good idea for politicians to get into tweeting matches with weathermen?
Well, we were debating this back and forth, and then, of course, Howard Dean knows this better than anybody. Said you do not get into wars. If you're an elected official, don't get into wars with people who are tweeting. The number one rule I was told at campaign finance, our campaign school years ago, Howard, was never punch down. If the attack against you is on TV, then respond on TV. If it's on the radio, respond on the radio. But God, don't respond to attacks on Twitter. That's just if you're a public official, that's absolutely ridiculous.
And the other part of that is have your spokesman respond. If you have to respond, you don't respond. You as Joe said, you've got to stay above the fray. You may make mistakes, and you will make mistakes, but you've got to be above the fray. Harold, you've been there, right? Running for the Senate.
I don't do the Twitter things. Yeah. I know I'm probably.
Well, it's not just about Twitter, but whenever somebody comes after you. Yeah. You got to be.
You don't punch down, Joe. You just don't punch down.
Right.
Yeah, you don't punch down. This was not only punching down, but also, let's go to Bill Cairns. Bill, when they held that press conference, they must have thought we all had a short memory. I'm not being negative. I would say this of anybody that held a press conference and thought that our memory was so short we didn't remember what people like you were saying just 6, 7, 8 hours ago. Bill de Blasio said that the storm moved faster and was much harder than they ever expected, which is ridiculous.
And the problem with that, Joe, is
the chancellor said it was so unpredictable. This wasn't unpredictable. You told us exactly what happened, and I know all of us made our decisions based on your forecast. And your forecast told you said stay inside. This one's going to move fast. It's going to be hard. Get home.
Yeah, I just don't understand the approach the mayor took. I mean, the history of New York City is not to cancel the schools. He just should have said, you know, it's your parents' choice. If you want to keep your kids home, keep your child home if it feels not safe. We're going to open the schools up. You know, if the teachers have a grievance with it, you know, that they were forced to come in, and that's up to the teachers' union. They can have that argument. But as far as the parents go, if they decide to keep their kids home and they didn't think it's safe, then they decide to do that. So he didn't take the right tack. Why blaming the forecast, which it did snow 9.5 inches. The forecast was for 6. The timing was exactly correct. So why he approached that argument, I don't know. And he also said, I respect the National Weather Service. You know, that's all and great. But the National Weather Service in Philadelphia, when that ban came through, told people to have something warm in their cars, their cell phone charged, and gas in the cars to stay off the roads. And then when that ban got up to New York City, the forecast office in this area pretty much said the exact same thing. Don't be on the roads. So it kind of contradicts exactly what he was talking about, how he justified it.
Oh, I know. Thank you so much, Bill. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah, David Gregory, I remember actually Bill saying that yesterday, that the National Weather Service, who he was throwing under the school buses, Al Roker said, do not get in your car. But if you do, you better have blankets, a fully charged cell phone, 20-weight ball bearings, gauze pads. I mean, you're going to be there for a very long time. You know, John Lennon said life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. That's kind of what happens to politicians. They have all of these great ideas, and then a question of basic governance comes along, and it can really throw anybody, especially a newcomer, for a loop.
I heard Bill Cairns yesterday morning. I built a snow cave in my living room just to be totally sure that I was going to be okay. Yeah, look, I think that you know, the problem is if you're going to be tough, if you're a city official and you say we're going to keep the schools open, that's how we do it. You got to be able to back that up. You know, you got to keep the roads clear. You can't just be thinking about kids who might be able to walk to school or live close to the school. You got to think about the transportation on a wider scale. And then I think Caddy made this point earlier. It's not just annoying to parents, but you have real difficulties for people who are working, trying to get to work. If all of a sudden you say, oh no, we're going to keep the schools open, and then you shut them down because you were wrong, that's just reckless. And it gets to a point of kind of governance at any level that is really irresponsible, because it really does get treacherous, and it can get treacherous fast for people coming longer distances, and it just becomes completely disruptive. And look, Governor Dean is probably, I mean, I'm from Los Angeles, so I don't have a great deal of experience with this, but you know, I think views have changed about what local districts can handle, what cities can handle with regard to this kind of transportation.